Hello and welcome back to another English podcast with Paul. Today we're talking about how to be a leader. He was manager, scribble it out, a leader. Okay, so going back a step or two, some of you may know that I was a manager for about 5 years. I wasn't smart enough and wise enough at the time to be able to move my career forward enough because I was stuck with responsibilities and needed to provide at that moment in time. Should I have been a wiser man, and maybe in the future, I would look to find myself a better quality company that supported me to grow along with the company. It is what it is. That was the past. This is now. Okay, a lot of what I've learned and what I'm going to share with you has come since being a manager. And I'm able to reflect on that and think, oh, yes, why didn't I do that? So it's from a lot of mistakes, but a lot of what I've learned here, I'm going to share, is really good stuff, in my opinion. So there's just 10 of them. So just a short video, quick 10. All right, starting from the top. Number 1, respect. With the staff, you should try and spend about half hour a week on a one-to-one, getting to know your staff. And all right, you're not going to be best friends, but if you know what's going on in the lives of your staff member, your team members, I prefer team members. If you're knowing what's going on in their lives, you're much more likely to feel connected and say, "Oh, how's Jimmy? Did he do that football challenge last week? Did he score any goals?" You're going to get a much better communication and work ethic and team member by having a connection with that person. All right, so remembering things about their children or remembering about things that are important to them, whether they had to go off last week for a wedding or a funeral or a medical procedure. Just some small details, remembering and connecting with that individual will give you much more productivity and much more respect back. It reciprocates back to you in turn over time. All right. We'll come back to this one as well, but listen and try to implement what will help them. So, for example, you might have one member of staff that's having to take their child to school at the moment and can't get into work until 9:30. Now, if you're able to accommodate that, maybe your team members are able to juggle some of their starting times around, or somebody else help out, then that's going to, again, give you much more reliability and understanding that our team member is going to be much more loyal to you and helpful to you in the future if you're able to help them. It's not just about, you might not have to do it forever. It might just be for once or twice a week, or it might just be for a couple of months. Maybe you have a student member of staff that's having to go off-site or having to go off somewhere for additional training. Maybe they have to do first aid, part of their course. And now allowing them to go do that will pay dividends to yourself in the future. All right, moving on. Number 2, feedback forms, suggestion forms with money for saving money. So it's not difficult to have a feedback form or even an anonymous one if they wish. So they can put suggestions in a box or this form. Especially they understand, because they're on the cutting edge, how to save the company money. It might be something simple like putting in motion sensor light switches outside where the bicycle rack is or the smoking hut or whatever. Something simple like that. It might cost a little bit to implement now, but may save you thousands over the years. And if you reward that kind of culture within your company, then people are more likely to feel listened to and valued. And that's one of the key aspects we'll come back to, feeling valued. So acting and implementing suggestions by the staff. It would be well worth going to a person and saying, look, I appreciate what you've written on here and taken time to write this, but that's not where the company wants to take us, and I don't think it's really going to help in the long term. But it's still a great idea, and please keep them coming, and we'll implement as many as we can. Those that you do implement, then you should share some of the profits that the company is, or savings, and just invest a little bit back to that team member. Maybe £50 worth of vouchers, or £50 worth of cash can really help inspire people. Ooh, he believed in me, he trusted me, he gave me something back. I've saved the company thousands, and in return they give me a few £100s in cash. That's always going to be a positive thing for that individual, and again for the company. All right. So also with valuing the staff member, the team member, is give the opportunity for career development. And in other areas, whether you have a young person that wants to learn to drive, and you can help them facilitate that. Maybe you've got somebody who wants to brush up on the maths and English. Or maybe somebody even wants to leave the company and develop their career further. And so even helping people, and some great books tell you that helping people move on from your company will still pay dividends to you, because they will talk highly about your company. They'll look back fondly. And there's just other ways that will always help you in the future. So if maybe your company has a ceiling of this level of education, and you want a member of staff, or member of staff wants help to go above that, and you can't see how that's going to help you, but in the long term it'll help that individual, that's still going to pay dividends. I'm not saying you got to pay thousands of pounds out of your own pocket. I'm just saying that making it possible and putting steps towards that is definitely going to help you out. Whether they send family your way to work, or whether they happen to end up knowing good contacts in the future, is always going to be a positive. All right. Number 3, culture. So they say you should propagate a culture of happiness through signage and smiles, and having plants and days out, group activities, family first attitude, maybe a newsletter. Now, breaking this down, having signage, signs in your place, instead of saying "now wash your hands" in the bathroom, you could have something else like "smile." It's a great day. We are building something for the world together. Having these positive, happy signs and nice, bright, happy colours within your work environment, and clean, will vastly improve the quality of the productivity of your staff members, of your team members. All right, so something so simple like a sign that's positive, affirmations, that will be so much more productive and positive for the long term for your team members. And as well, like with group activities and days out. I recently spoke to my brother about a hamper I gave him last Christmas that was given to me from a company. And he said, "Oh yeah, I want to work for that company now." And he'd literally given in his notice because he was fed up with being not valued in his company, and came work for the company I was working for at that time. And so he's really looking forward to the Christmas hamper. Small things like that go a long, long way. It's not difficult. Group activities, days out, family first mentality, the fact that somebody needs to spend time with their family is very, very important, and it should be more important than the company's profits or the attendance of some person. If you recruit smartly, you would have enough to cover for sickness and for holidays, and so that won't be a massive issue. But again, it will pay dividends. It will pay you back well in the long run. Okay, so that's kind of the positive culture you want to propagate within your company. Number 4, no blame. So if you focus on improving and not blaming, holding your hands up and some kind of amnesty where, look, if you explain that this was an accident, that broke, this broke, that's worn out, that is so much nicer, so much more happy an atmosphere that you're able to then use for the company as a way of growing and learning to be able to make things safer and better for the future. Most people aren't nefarious in nature and want to break and smash and destruct things on purpose. A lot of things happen accidentally. And if we're able to have a no blame culture, it's much quicker that it's going to get reported and fixed and safety measures implemented for the future, which will save you from not having accidents and compensation claims. So allowing people to be honest and open and hold their hands up is much better for everybody. Okay, number 5. Now, maybe this should have been number 1, but an ethical vision. Leading from an ethos or ethics that your people can get behind and feel worthy is so much more uplifting and makes an individual feel not just valued, but like they're doing something for the world. So, for example, if you were a company that made something sustainable, or you made something that was helping the environment or helping other people, it gives that person much more respect, self-respect. So if somebody from out of town or a family member says, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" "Oh, yeah, right. Well, we make this and then it helps with that and it does it." They are much more infused and excited and feel valued. We can all look to a family member and say, "Oh yeah, his wife or his cousin, yeah, they're a doctor, they're a nurse, they're an airline pilot, they're, this, that and the other that is positive influence on the world." So much better than something negative or something draining the world. So if you've got an ethos, a vision that the company can get behind, that everybody feels like they're on the same page, then there's going to be much more positivity and productivity and feeling of self-worth from every individual. You just got to look at some of the big ones out there, and then you think, oh yeah, those people must feel good about themselves, building that, making that. One example, I'm looking to upgrade my laptop, is one laptop called Framework, and it's about right to repair, the pioneering right to repair and fix their own laptop. And this laptop, the company called Frameworks, gives you a screwdriver, and all the parts within inside the laptop are like modular, and you can take them out and fix them. You can buy them on their website for a whole menu of items and upgrade it. So now your and then they also sell either a plan, or you can buy the actual 3D printed plastic case to put your old motherboard in to use it for something else. Instead of buying a Raspberry Pi, you could use an old motherboard, whether you wanted to make your own surveillance or your own Wi-Fi enabled webcams or whatever. So this company then also thinks about the afterlife of their motherboards. But being able to say that you work for a company that gives long life to electronics and minimizing plastic and e-waste is great for everybody. We all need laptops, and electronics is just becoming a bigger and bigger industry. So they're looking the future of how they can be a positive step, a positive, peg in that industry. So that again is another great thing, having that vision, that ethos, that positivity to get your team member to stand behind. All right, ethical vision. All right then, number 6. Celebrate the wins. All right, you're not just a team member. If you go further and you have give cash for that team member of the month, or somebody that's done something really big. Let's say when your team members pass their driving license, and you make an announcement. When it's somebody's birthday, you bring in a cake. The company buys a cake, or the company provides vending machines, discounted food, anything like that, and sorry, again a bit off topic, but celebrating the wins. Also, like when the company reaches targets that you've got set, every time you do that, it should be a positive, happy experience that the whole team want to get behind, you know? If you can all stay, say like, oh, we're going home early on Friday, or, you know, because we reached our target, everybody like, woo, yay, I'm so happy, this is a great company, woo! Again, that builds so much more connectivity with your team members, and you're going to get so much more, not just happy team members and productive team members, but friends for the future as well. It massively helps and elevates the whole team. They say a rising tide raises all boats. You know, that's a good metaphor to think about in regards to the company and celebrating the wins all the way through. You know, even the cleaner or your janitor, whatever you want to call them, even those ancillary people, they deserve to be part of the team and considered just as an effective cog in that wheel of your business. You know, I always make an effort to connect and say hello and speak to any cleaners that I see, whether it's in the pub or whether it's in a supermarket. I always speak to the cleaner. You know, they are often looked away and looked down upon. So every member needs to feel valued, and celebrating those wins. Like I said, if it's the cleaner's birthday, get the cleaner a cake. They are all integral parts. They all need to feel that the company is winning together. All right, okay. My notes are blowing around here. Apologies. All right, number 7. Give responsibility. It sounds a bit odd or a bit strange, but it breeds a sense of ownership. You know, if you have a member of staff that might not be really, really quick on maybe a piece of production line, or in a particular area that they're part of a team or part of a unit, then give that individual some responsibility, whether they're a fire marshal or a first aider or a health and safety advisor or welfare, or just some cap to wear, some hat to put on as a person of authority, that maybe not authority, but a person of value and worth, that, you know, you need to go see the first aider. Well, the health and safety man says that we need to look at this and change that, and everybody having some kind of role within and some kind of responsibility within the team gives everybody a bit of ownership. You know, they can say, well, excuse me, hang on. We need to address this. This is a bit of an issue. And they can then all get that sense and that value of helping the family team to be safer, more productive, better, and caring for one another. All right? So it sounds easy, but it means a lot. It does do a lot of positivity, giving individuals responsibility. And it doesn't have to be by any particular degree of merit. You know, it could be a younger person being a first aider, or somebody a bit older doing health and safety. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter, so long as people feel valued. Like I said, builds that sense of ownership. Number 8, friends and family references. Give financial incentives to your team members when they recommend a family or a friend to come join the company. Because it says, word of mouth says so much more about the company. And you're rewarding them for bringing them into your company. They will also feel responsible then, that they might go, well, actually, my cousin, not very reliable. I'm not going to recommend him. Especially the fact if you give money as the reward and incentive for bringing in good people, you know, that member or that family member or that friend will be the first filter between a good staff member or team member and a bad team member. They're going to think, well, you know, our team's doing really, really well. I don't want my cousin coming in because they're lazy, or they're have issues that they can't deal with, and, you know, they're not going to help the team. So rewarding that gives the individual some autonomy of their team, and also being able to connect with the wider team as not so much of a stranger. Oh, that's so and so's friend. Oh no, that's Joe's sister. Yeah, she's good. She's a good worker. Yeah, we like her. Yeah, yeah. Come on in. Come on in. Any other good workers? Come to the company. Yes, please. You know, and giving that money helps that individual being not just a filter, but to think about, oh, who else do I know that might want to work here? Who else is a good worker? Oh, I know, my neighbour. My neighbour's looking for a job. Yeah, he's been at that company for 7 years. Yeah, he never has a day off work. Yeah, he's a good member of staff. Oh, right, okay. And so, again, that freedom, autonomy of giving reward to a member of staff to recommend other people, and that filter process, again, does so much positivity for the company. All right, moving on. Number 9, which would be that in sign language, British Sign Language. Sorry, that 9. Positive exit for rotten apples. Now, I scratched my head on this one for a little bit, and I had to think, why would you want to help rotten apples within your company? Now, once it was explained to me, I thought, oh, yeah, of course. But positive and sensitively offering to help an unhappy member of staff, an unhappy team member, will not only help that individual in the future, but it also get them out of your team and stop other members becoming negative and fed up and irritated by keeping that team member that's bringing the rest of the team down. So it not only does it give you value in the eyes of the other team members, but also helping that individual looking for a job, applying for a job, getting the skills for that other job, and reaching out and making phone calls or emails to help that individual move on to, I mean, don't lie, but you can be very liberal with the truth. That person, like in our country, in the UK, you're not allowed to give a bad reference, but you can say, HR has said that this person worked here from this time to this time, and they can leave it at just that and nothing else. And then if you want to fill out a questionnaire by their new company, you may refuse, or you may say, yeah, they only ever had 2 days off sick. Or you can be honest and say their attendance was below average. So you can be honest with their attendance, but you have to be very careful not to be negative about somebody that used to work for your company. Which is kind of odd, really. Anyway, but helping rotten apples move on to pastures new is not only can be a positive and a happy experience for yourself, you might learn something about your team or about your company, and you may also learn something about that person that's leaving. They may give you some inside information that you weren't aware of. And you never know, you might bump into them in the future. They may say thank you, they may have a great job, and they all may recommend people to come to your company that are good hard workers. So it's only positive good stuff comes from helping a rotten apple move out of your company. All right, moving on. The last one, number 10. How we do in sign language? Number 10. Autonomy. Now again, this one seemed a little bit strange at the start. But structure a program where anyone else can do each other's roles. Now, obviously, I'm not saying an electrician and a plumber should swap jobs, but if you're in a factory or if you're in a team atmosphere where high qualifications aren't important, such as maybe a brain surgeon and an electrician, or a qualified mechanic, apart from those kind of roles, then it's well worth training everybody up from the bottom to be able to do every single role within your company. And likewise, also for you should have multiple people in your human resources if you have that, or in the office there should be multiple people that can do the same role within the office. So even things like wages, it shouldn't be a secret. It should be clear, transparent. People get upset and angry when they find out so and so is on this much money or that person's on double they're on. But if it's transparent and everybody that starts is on this level, then when you've got, I don't know, when you're capable of using this machine or you're capable of doing this thing and you're signed off, then you get a little increase and another increase. And once you've been there 5 years, you've got so many increases that nobody feels bad that you have X amount of money because you've been there that long and you've earned your increments, your increases by learning lots and lots of different skills and proven so. Now that goes on even further to the point where it's well worth thinking about people to replace your role as manager or CEO. You think about the big ones that do this, like Apple. Every CEO knows they're going to have to replace themselves at some point. So if you have, say, supervisors or deputies, deputy managers, things like this, if you're able to train them up to the point where they could do your role, then if you go off sick or if something terrible happens in your family, then you're still able to have the machine running or the company running without a hitch, without a problem, because everybody knows how everything else is run. So that autonomy without you, starting from each employee all the way up, and that autonomy without you will help the company no matter to no end, just on and on and on and on. And again, the fact that you'd be able to maybe have the company running so well, let's just say in a period of 5 years, you could have that company running so well, ship shape and Bristol fashion, that you were able to work part-time and that your deputies are able to cover. And then at some point you can look to moving on yourself, maybe to a bigger role, another company, or whether you're retiring altogether. But priming people to do the next role above is never going to be a bad thing. It's only going to help autonomy and help the system and help educate each other. So it's all about systems and writing out those systems and this is clearly done in places like McDonald's. A new member of staff comes in, they get taught how to use the cash register, the till. Then they might get taught how to flip the burgers and the timer. Then they might get taught, this menu. Then they might get taught how to use the fryer. And then they get taught how to do the clean down procedure. And then the open up procedure. And then they get taught how to sort out the money. And then they get to sort out the stock rotation and stock ordering. And so many different sectors of McDonald's have systems in place. Because it's systems that run efficient companies, not people. It's the systems involved. And again, that's in many, many great books on leaders and entrepreneurialism. It's all about systems. Train everybody up on each system so they can grow throughout the company and able to move around throughout the company. Remember at school we used to be in goal, or then we would be somebody on the centre line, and then maybe we'd be a striker. You got to learn to try and know about all the other parts to keep it really efficient. And then, like I said, eventually, so you can step away yourself, so you can be off sick, so you can take a holiday for a week with your family without worrying the company is going to grind to a halt without you there. All right, so it's all about efficiency and getting you out. All right, that's it for me. This is about how to be a great leader. If you've got any thoughts on it, please let me know. And please hit that notification bell. Subscribe and like. Thank you very much. Let me know your tips down below. See you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.